All right. I'm muting the wait bot. He has to go. Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh.
He's so
Terrence here
dramatic.
today. He's so dramatic. I never know what music he's going to play. He just does. Okay, let me turn on your video and give me 1 second. I want to make sure we're simulcasting in the places. Did I turn off my video? I sure did. Let's try
You
that
did.
again.
No
I
video
meant
for
to.
anyone.
No video for you. Okay. Welcome to Roxtalks. Is the time where we just get to chat and talk. I invite some of my friends to be here live, and we talk about what's going on in life. It's water cooler time, all the things. I have to tell you in full honesty, because this is my third show, that I am learning as I go. Yeah, see, I got it. Ooh, ooh, I see it. Okay, so I'm just making sure we are totally on. Give me 1 second. Live on Facebook. So now we should, and Manissa, you should probably be able to see it now, hopefully as well too. While she's doing that, I want to thank you for being here. Tara Bear is here. It's amazing. Little thing about the show, if you're watching inside of Fireside, it's an interactive platform. So you might see these little emojis above you, and if you click on them or you touch them, things happen. Yeah, like that.
Oh my God, we're back at I Can't Dance.
It does sound like that. And so feel free to interact. It's also an opportunity for you if you want to, like, if you have questions, all the things. The chat is a space for you, and we'll also invite you up to come up and hang out with us if you like. All right. So today is a special day because, well, every day is a special day, but I'm so excited to introduce to you the phenomenal, fantastic friend of mine, Minissa Konecki, who happens to be this like jack of all the cool trades, none of the boring trades, but the cool trades. It's true. So if there's something that's like wild or interesting, or I've always wanted to do that, she's either done it or she's done it or she's thought about doing it and then has a really good reason why you shouldn't. She's all the things. So we met a couple years ago on a show. Actually, we were both on a live show together and dug each other, and we've been friends and I guess like business colleagues, whatever you call it, ever since then. So Minissa, thank you for being here. Is there anything you want to say about yourself that I did not?
Thank you so much for inviting me. The only thing I want to say that you missed out was that when we first met, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "Oh my God, I love you. Can we talk after this?" And I was like, she's
You
gonna
did say
think I'm
that.
such a weirdo.
You're not a weirdo. You did. That's an ultimate compliment. And I have to also say we were in the green room earlier and I was like, oh man, the camera shot is like thought I could get away with not wearing a bra because it would show. And she's like, that's okay. I'm not wearing a bra either. So this is the first episode that's like a no bra episode. And y'all just gonna have to deal with it. Okay. I
No
hope
bras,
you're okay with it.
braless.
No bras. Yes. Okay, so let's go. Let's dive into it. First and foremost, I like to start with just kind of a guilty pleasure type of thing. Manissa, what is the show that you are watching right now that you are really digging on that you think we need to know about?
Oh my God, I actually think that everybody needs to watch Moon Knight. Moon Knight is Marvel's new entry, and it's oh my God, it's so good. So it's on Disney Plus. It's
Okay.
a 6 episode show. It's short. It's Oscar Isaac, Ethan Hawke, who is amazing, and a lot of new Egyptian actors. And what's really exciting
Hmm.
for me, and a couple of levels, is first it takes place in the U.S. and in London and in Egypt, and they hired mostly Egyptian cast and crew. So it's really very much like the culture is in there, and so much so that there were things from my childhood in Pakistan that I was like, oh my God, I remember that. The attention
Ah.
to detail is crazy. But here's why I love it the most. I have never seen a show talk about mental health in such a profound way. I've never felt so seen in my entire life, and I've been talking to a lot of people who have come out of trauma, like they've had very, very traumatic instances in their childhood that they've either been working through for most of their lives or they're just now uncovering and working through. And almost to a person, they're like, I feel so seen and understood. The representation in that show is just mind-bogglingly good.
Wow. Okay, so I've never heard of it. Now I'm gonna look into it. So that, and the fact that it's 6 episodes is something I feel like we can all binge and watch. And if you enjoy the Marvel world, but what you said about, well, a lot of it, but mental health is like a really good segue into where we're going. This is Mental Health Awareness Month, and one of the things I did tell, like, Manissa, I never have to go like, Manissa, we're gonna talk about this, then this, but I did tell her, I'm like, I do want to talk about mental health, and the reason that I want to talk about it with you is because you have been really, really vulnerable lately. about
Thanks,
showing your
Annie.
mental health journey on social media. And so I did not know Moon Knight. I've never heard of. So now it's a great segue. We'll check it out. But what made you decide? Because you usually talk about how to like grow your business with Facebook and all these things, and all of a sudden, you've been putting out some really heavy in a good way, heavy as in like, oh, this is meaty, thank you, reels and whatnot about mental health awareness. What made you make that change?
The actual change I think happened because I've been doing a lot of trauma work with therapists and a variety of people, and I feel like I felt like I did a lot of work that helped me to see how my story is not unique and that I may be a unique snowflake to myself. My circumstances may be different, but the things that I'm experiencing have commonalities. And I think that I was just so afraid I've lived in fear for so many years of something or someone or what, like, you don't even necessarily know what it is. Like, it's just a fear, like, that keeps you from taking action, whatever that action is. And I've talked about my anxiety and stuff generally speaking, but I really started to just be like, I am not going to be afraid to share this anymore because the people who I was impacting the most in my life were the people who actually knew these things about me. And the people who I impacted the least in my life were the people that I hid these things from. And I realized that hiding feeds pain. It feeds that angst, the anxiety. Hiding all of these things is what keeps us locked in these spaces because we're ashamed, or I was ashamed at least.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I'm done being afraid. I'm done being ashamed. I'm just thank you, thank you. And so I just decided I don't care if nobody likes me. I don't care if everybody hates me because I know that there's one person out there that this is going to help. And if I help that one person, that's all I care about.
That is powerful, and that's a reminder to all of us. I think we have this perception that we should be perfect, and I'm not even going to blame social media about for it because before there was social media, there was this perception of people being perfect all the time, right? And if you weren't perfect, something was wrong with you, and if you showed any cracks in your shell, something was wrong. And I agree with you. I think the humanity of it and showing your journey that helps so much more. Um, Mental health is like, people were, yeah, and I'm a lover of Simone Biles. I love the girl. I love the woman, excuse me. But I think back, and I'm obsessed with Olympics. And I think back to when um she really shined a light, and she's not the only one who's done it, but she shined a big light on mental health awareness. And people still felt very mixed about it. But I feel like more and more over the last, I'm going to give her credit where it's definitely due as the GOAT, where in the sense of from August, that was in August, to now, it hasn't even been a year. I feel like the mental health conversation has cracked open like a coconut, and it's like oozing out in a big and an important way.
I gotta ask you actually, I'm curious because because you're really into the Olympics and you and I have
Obsessed.
different. I know you're. I remember when they were on. I was like, don't bother Roxanne while she's watching the
Don't bother
Olympics.
me. Like, don't talk to me. Yeah, unless it's about the Olympics. Carry on. Sorry.
So I am curious, because like when you only hang out, because I only hang out in I hang out in my spaces, and I know that this is a conversation that's happening here, but like you mentioned that like the conversation about mental health is being cracked open. Are you finding that in the sports circles and the circles that you are following, that maybe I like the Olympics that I'm not a part of, like are you finding that the conversation about these things is actually a little bit more sensitive? Because if I remember, people were obnoxious about her, like.
Yes, they were not. Well, it depends on who you, yes, so, like, I am not afraid of Twitter, never have been, and so I read all the things on Twitter, and I was getting it. I'm like, I changed my thing to, like, a Simone Biles stan account. Like, I changed my because I'm like, I'm not gonna deal with this people being ridiculous about mental health, and not, like, the idea that we are backing someone and we're for them when they're perfect. But when they show something that we consider in our society as weakness,
Mhm.
all of a sudden we turn on them, we wanna burn them at the stake. I'm not here for that. That's some bullshit. By the way, we can cuss on the show. And so I forgot to
Thank
tell
you.
you that.
Thanks.
You're
I
welcome.
didn't earlier on
She's like,
purpose.
"Release the Kraken."
God.
So here's what I would say. Are there still the people who will find any reason to tear someone down? They're absolutely still there. And I'm noticing because I don't watch the NBA except for the playoffs, and I'm a Suns fan, always have been. Charles Barkley was one of my crushes growing up, and because I'm from, Arizona. But I definitely have this, right, there's been some talk about some of the players not playing, and is it mental is it their mental health? And people, I think that always in the sports space, there's always gonna be some scrutiny. But the fact that the conversation is even being allowed to happen, and that people are saying it's my mental health, I think is huge, huge,
Mhm.
huge progress. Will the initial people get maligned at the stake? Yeah, but I really feel like Simone has done the most of that. And I want to just shout out, this is not sponsored by Athleta, but I do want to shout out Athleta. I do, because they had a decision to make. And I listen, when that happened with her, I even went to her Stars Across America. Or no, it's not Stars, it's GOAT, the whatever Gold Across America tour. Because I'm like, people are like maligning her, and I'm going to support her by going to the tour. So it was me and all of these preteen gymnasts. And their mom was like, one of us does not look like the other. And we'd be like in an arena, like in the Honda Center, and they would like be doing splits and backflips, just walking to their seats. I'm like, this is insane. But they did a whole thing, and Athleta also sponsored that tour, where they did a whole thing on mental health there as well too. And I thought to myself, if my generation may not be as understanding about it, but think about what she's doing for the future generations, kids who
Yep.
are in their teens. And we'd always say like, oh, you're not being tough enough, or oh, get over it, or oh, she's being hysterical. And we would never give that credence to the credence I think it really deserved.
Dude, like, you're just so you said that and I immediately felt, like, kinda triggered because I think to myself, our generation and the generation before, I'm just gonna say we're really fucking judgy. So fucking judgy. You're constantly judging yourself, you're judging others, oh my god, and that was how we were raised. You'd hear, like, and that's how we created your parents created community by that person is the person that we don't wanna talk right? And so you became afraid of being the person that actually got that behavior, where you were the one, like, you don't want to be ostracized like that. And so whether you're perfect or not, you're going to do your best to pretend to be perfect. And I think that what you said earlier about like the next generation, what I think is interesting is that I think you have people of our generation who are taking a step back and recognizing that there's a different way. There's a better
Yeah.
way that that we're rejecting our programming from our youth and we're like we are literally rebuilding ourselves from the ground up. And I'm actually inspired by the kids like Simone Biles, like the 18, 19-year-olds, like they are so brave. They
They
just
are.
don't give a shit. And I'm like, you know what? You, Miley Cyrus, I want to be like you. You just don't care. And you're like, I'm going to deal with my mental health and I don't care if I'm messed up. I'm going to see a therapist and I love it. Harry
Right.
Styles. Did you hear what he said? I love
No,
him
what
so
did he say?
much.
What did
First of all, let's just thank you. Let's pause a moment for Harry Styles because he's just so
Was
amazing.
that what that clap was for? Was for Harry Styles
Well, it has to have been for
for
Harry
a
Styles
little
because
watermelon sugar high? Okay, carry on.
I
Carry
love
on.
him so much. He's amazing. Um, and he said that he used to think that therapy was for people who were broken. And he said, now I understand that nothing has ever made me feel as alive as therapy. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, you are just going to get so many people into therapy, you hot young man.
Him, Michael Phelps. And the thing is like, you're right, because back when we were younger, therapy's, oh, you have to go to therapy? Something is wrong. And by the way, if you're looking at us going, how old are we? I know we look like we're in our 20s. I'm kidding. I'm 43.
I'm
And
45.
yeah, so we're like Gen X here talking about, but mental health was like oh, she has to go to therapy. Something is wrong with her. Like,
Hmm.
what's wrong? And my sister, who happens to be a doctor, she's always said like therapy is so important. Everyone needs therapy. She always talks to our whole family like, you
Yes.
all need to go to therapy. You need to keep going to therapy because it's so important. Like, we think that our friends or our family members are who we need to be talking to about things. Like, does that even make sense?
Oh
I
my
mean,
God. It's
you know
so
what I'm saying?
wrong.
I mean,
Well,
yes,
you
we
know
should
why?
talk to them, but that's not going to help us figure out what's going on.
So let me share something with you because I actually just had this conversation with someone the other day and I found the language that I think worked for me because I think this is one of the problems, right? So if you come from a family that has abuse or trauma in it, then it's highly likely that your family was all about keeping family secrets. Don't tell people things. You don't talk about it. Don't say this about your mom or your dad or whatever. Like so we really came from that space, right? So there's only when you come from that space, there's only one person to talk to. You got to talk to people in your family. Like who else are you going to talk to when you don't go
Right.
outside?
Right.
On the flip side, even if you don't have that, we do have this general life philosophy from the 80s, and I don't think it permeates as much now, but where blood family is everything, and no matter what they do, they are your family. You can trust them with everything, and we know that that's not the case. So when I was so my family and I are working through some trauma right now, and as we work through it, the language that we found was helpful was that the processing of the emotions has to happen with a therapist, because a therapist is a professional who can help you process the emotions and figure out where you're ending up and what it means to you, how you feel, so on and so forth. Your family is the place where once you've processed, you can now come and share and grieve and go through the healing and grief process together as a family. But your family members aren't your processing station. Like that, they don't, are not equipped for that job. And you, what will end up happening is that you will end up trauma dumping on them, and you will become codependently trauma bonded. And now you won't know how to break it. And so now the two of you are talking to each other about this, whatever this mental health illness is, and you're going to discover that you're not feeling much better, and you have to keep talking to each other to get that dopamine hit that now keeps you going, but you're not actually healing, you're just surviving.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think and people do that with family members or with friends, right? That's a friend
Mhm.
thing or even relationships, people you're dating where it's just like that is not the person. Don't think that just because you're with someone, married, dating, whatever, that that means that's the person that you that's not your therapist. They are not your therapist. And we probably all do need a therapist. Probably all of our like no, seriously. I think it's an important thing, and I hope that there's more awareness to it. And then also, I think there needs to be more awareness to like when someone says they can't do something, or they're if when someone says no, right? Because really, when you're making a decision to not be a part of something because for your mental health, you're saying no. We, in a lot of ways, see that as someone being weak, where that's actually strength. When you know your limits and you're like, okay, you know what, based on my limits, I can't do this. That's not what's going to happen. That's a huge thing.
Dude, oh my god, you know what? That's so, like, so okay, so let me ask you something, because like, you're because so, like, let's say you ask me, "Hey, do you wanna hang out or go out?" Right? And I say, "No." God, what kind of damage, like, think about your group of friends who's like, "God, you don't like
Hmm.
us. It's a rejection." I'm suddenly thinking about this, and it's like, now you're reinforcing, like, so you feel like you have to do it. You don't feel safe anywhere now. Oh,
Absolutely.
dude, now I'm feeling so bad for whoever it is that has to go out and they don't want to. Like, that
Well, I
is
mean, but all those things, like maybe you know that it's not healthy for you. You mentioned
Yeah.
that. Like, so maybe I know it's not healthy for me to go out like back in my 20s or whatever, go out with my friends at night. Maybe I'm like, I just can't mentally handle that. Or I can't handle like performing or doing something. Feeling that pressure like you have to, like a Britney Spears aspect, for example. I don't know her whole story. I love me some Britney, but when we look back on what happened with her, and being forced to do certain things that she just wasn't she needed time to rest and recuperate and just get right with herself. And of course, that was taken away from her in a whole nother Oprah. But you get me, like, if we say no to something, something is wrong with us. When I decided to leave law, after being at a prestigious firm doing all the things, and I said, I'm leaving, people thought something was wrong with me. I had partners, some who had never even spoken to me, come to me like, are you okay? Is everything all right? They really thought that I was checking into a mental health facility because I decided I didn't want to practice law anymore. And the idea to opt out of something to them was crazy.
You know what I wonder? I wonder how much of that is because they feel like when you make a different choice, right? And I got this from a comedian at some point. It almost feels like a judgment on their
Mhm,
decision, right? So it's like
mhm.
you're like, and when you think about it, a lot of these people want to leave law too, I bet. Like, so they're
You
like,
know,
we want to.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm like, okay. And then when I did it, and I did that when I was 24, 25. So that was back in, I don't know what year, 2000s, it was the early 2000s. The idea and the thought process of someone my age leaving law who had everything going for her seemed like it, like that was just, it was a reflection on everyone else who was at my firm. And
Yeah.
it was like, and wait, you'd want to leave this? Why would you want to leave this? Because I wasn't meant for it. But I think that was my choice. And really, I realized if I stayed like this, if I stayed doing what I was going to do, what I was doing, I knew what I was going to become. I could see it. And I am a very intuitive person. We can talk about that another day. So I could see what was going to happen to me. And I'll tell you right now, and as I look at it now and I can formulate better words around it, my mental health was in danger. If I
Hmm.
stayed doing that, my mental health and my being, my soul was just going to be something that I didn't want that for me. So I made that bold choice, and it was bold and brave and probably kind of wild, and maybe we could even call it crazy, to say no and opt out. Did I lose a lot of things? Oh, absolutely. But I gained my mental health and my in that way, in that regard. And so I think about that, the immense pressures, and maybe that's why I feel for people who decide like I am not going to compete in the Olympics, even though I'm a gold medalist right now, because I know for my health mentally and physically that is not the right thing to do. Or I'm not going to play that sports game, or I'm not going to get up on stage, or I'm not going to go to work today, right? Those reasons, I mean, I think I'm very empathetic to that because I get that.
It sounds like as you were talking, it really sounded like, the mental health, the impact that you were feeling was probably coming from a lot of different places, but, like, when I think about it and I think about people who are raised with expectations, right? These really
Mm.
whatever the expectations the parents have, the family has, if you were like so I was my aunt, my father's generation was the first one to actually go to college. My grandfather was all about going to college, but there was these expectations of what I was supposed to become, what I was supposed to do. You went to law school. Like there were so many expectations. Knowing a few lawyers in my life, I know how hard and how focused you need to be, and then you almost start to create expectations for yourself. And like, I think that when I was hearing your words, you know what I heard? I heard, I decided that I was worth it. I was worth it to make the change. Like you were saying a lot of words, but the feeling that I kept getting was like, I made a choice that Roxanne Wilson is worth making this change, even though it's scary. And I wonder how much of this is us not making changes because we don't think we're worth the effort or worth the change.
Ooh, that's juicy. I wanna I'm gonna respond to that, and then I see that we have some comments on Facebook, so I do wanna shout out to Christy because I just saw that she's commenting on there. So yes, all of that is a an emphatic yes, and I think that I didn't know at that time what it was. I just felt that, and that's just, but when you said something about expectations, and I am not first generation college. My parents are professors, but I'm first generation in the US, United States of America. So my mom was pregnant, 7 months pregnant with me when they moved here for my dad to go to school and for her to go to school. And so there's immense pressure as an immigrant's child coming to the US, and my parents, what they always, and then of course minority immigrant, all the things, right? But education was everything, and getting a great education and being having a prestigious job was everything. So there was that pressure. Now, did I feel that pressure growing up? I don't think I considered it pressure. I just understood this is what you do, right? um, but making that choice to leave law, of course I thought, oh my gosh, what is my dad going to think? Like, I've honestly, while he was great about it, um, there were times, even for between now and 25 and now 43, there have been times where I have to, and I'm gonna get kind of teary. Wow. Have to deal with that. Am I disappointing my father? I'm 43 years old. I'm a grown ass woman, and I still have that. Oh my gosh, am I a disappointment to my father? So I think that is, and that was a choice that I made. I chose me as opposed to what I think my family would want. And my dad and I have a fantastic relationship, but I still wondered to myself, would he be happier saying, "This is my daughter who is an attorney"? My dream was to be a Supreme Court justice, first Black female one. So of course now, like, that's so interesting and so timely. I think about what's going on right now, but I wonder if he's like, "Oh yeah, I mean, here's my daughter." Like,
Right.
this is
I
what
like
I got.
that he's
I
like,
thought
consider
I
my
was getting
daughter.
this. Yeah, this is what I got instead. It's like those Pinterest, like, I'm making that fun cake, and this is what the cake actually turned out to be.
I've
Here I
seen those
am.
pictures.
You know, Let me just shout out really quickly to Christy Don. She said, "Family is everything." Definitely goes back further than the 80s, but somewhere in the 60s or so, the conversation shifted to including only blood relations and no longer included friends and extended family as a community, as a family unit. And that's a really good point because it used to be like the community was the family for sure. She said her mom and her siblings are the judgiest people I know, which has to be difficult, Christy. Like, you love them, but sometimes when that judgment is on you, that can be a really difficult thing. And she also says mental health issues are so hard, and even harder when you think you're the only one dealing with them. Knowing that you aren't alone can be such a huge help, which again, Vanessa, is one of the reasons I'm so thankful to you for just being open about it.
I'm so grateful that I honestly I had no I mean I've actually it's been actually my most popular content, which is I didn't see that coming, but it was like people keep commenting and liking it, and I'm glad because it's having an impact. Because what I hear like Christy talking about like the judginess and like all the like it's just like death by a thousand cuts. Like your mental health suffers from like just these little constant like microaggressions from your family, from society, from
Mhm.
community. I thought it was super interesting though what she said about societies, the fact that it used to be so it was the 60s and the 50s it started to become where it was no longer blood relation. I'm actually reading this book called Invisible Women. I'm not reading it, I'm listening to it on Audible. And it's all about how the way our the way countries, roads, public transport, all of it is designed, it's designed entirely for men and the way men live their life because all of the data that they gathered to figure out where should they put the traffic lights and how should they do the bus, all of them were not gendered. So basically it's all dude stuff. So now women like, and one of the major consequences of that in Rio was actually that they moved all of the so the way that their community organizations were set up before was that the whole family and whole communities would help raise children. So you didn't need childcare. You'd walk outside the door, you'd be able to go to work, that kind of thing. But as part of like their new restructuring program, they basically picked everyone out of their space and moved them 50 miles out, which we've all seen happen in California and all over the place. And now they can't actually get anywhere. And those things are not set up to support a community growth environment. The architecture is such to create separation. So they have now architecturally created an environment in which women are not able to use the community that they used before to create the childcare or to find support. Or so now we're finding that. So what Christy is describing, as she said it, I was like, you know, when that started, it started during the great infrastructure changes. When they started doing those major infrastructure changes, the things that they took into consideration were the men and not so much the women. Women tend to be more community oriented in this space. We try to grow through community. Men are more goal. I'm going to go do that thing and I'm going to do this, but I'm going to be outside the house and, you know, hunting, gathering versus being at home by the hearth. And as a result, now we are isolated and we are even more alone. And now we are going through things by ourselves without the support of a community. Christy, you just blew my mind with what you said. You
Wow.
connected two dots I didn't even know existed in that moment.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's so it's wild as you don't think about even infrastructure can change how we do things, but really that's the whole point of it, right? Like it's encourages behavior in so many different ways. I know we've gone down this like path. It's so funny because I'm like, we're talking about this and that, and I know who knows with you, Manissa, it could go all these places. I do want to be respectful of everybody's time though. So I'm gonna have to just have you back on because there's all these things I wanted to talk to you about, including the fact that while we were in the green room before, I literally said, "Hey, Manissa, you know what? I've known you for a couple years, and you've never. Do you have children?"
And I was like, do you
I'm
have kids? I don't know. I figured
"Do
she
you
didn't, but I was like, we've never
which
talked about him.
we've never talked about, which created like a really interesting conversation about not having kids and that like and all that. We'll have it another time. But it is. Do you have any? I mean, like I said, we could talk forever. But I hope that those you've listened that this has been helpful for you and just to start the conversation to think about what's going on and your mental health and in general. Manissa, where can we find you? I've been talking and teasing all this great content you've been putting out there, but where can we find you?
You can find me at Manessa.com. Yay, we got the website at Manessa.com. And I am on
Yay.
Facebook at Manessa.Konecki, but Manessa.com will pretty much take you anywhere you need to go. And the one thing that I want to recommend is to follow my Instagram, Manessa.Konecki, where I actually share a lot of ideas and habits and things that will create the infrastructure in your life to help support mental health. Speaking of infrastructure. So yeah, definitely follow me there.
Love it. And you should probably do a show on Fireside. We'll talk about that as well too.
Dude, I actually think this is like so
What do you
amazing.
think of
I
it?
think you and I should do a show. I think you
I
and
was
I should
thinking
do a show
that.
together
I'm
and
down
like it
with
should just
that.
be the two of us doing this. Like this we could talk forever.
I could totally do that with you. Like I'm like, maybe we do that. Let's chat about that because I think it'll be fun and helpful and yeah, I'm down with it. So I'm saying yes here live. So there's that.
Oh, nice. See, she said yes.
I should have
I
said
keep doing
yes.
that every time she asks me to be on a podcast. I send her a GIF for a marriage proposal. Like
She
she
does
said
that.
yes.
Every time, every time. Y'all, thank you for being here. Let us know what you want to hear about next time. We'll be back. Will, I just said will. I guess, Vanessa, you're coming back
We'll
next
be
week.
back. I guess, yeah,
We'll
sure.
be back same time next week to talk things. We love this time with you. Also, if you're new, just know when you're in the studio or if you're not in the studio, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we'd love to get you in the studio to watch and interact here live and just check out this new platform. Thankful for it. I have to say, though, because I'm a Suns fan, being on Mark Cuban's platform right now is a little hard. I will calm down because, he does own the Mavericks and we are 3-3 right now. But Sir Cuban, we're going to beat you next or tomorrow, and then all will be well. So
And
anyhow,
then
we
it'll be fine. Once you
it'll
beat
be
him,
fine.
it'll all be fine.
Once we beat him, go Suns, go! It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Rock. I have
Take
no
care,
idea. Go
everyone.
Mavericks. Bye. Thanks,
Wait,
Rock.
did you just say go Mavericks on this show?
Wait.
What's wrong with
No,
you?
wait. No, wait. I'm supposed to go Suns, right?
Go
Suns.
Suns. Yeah, go
I was
Suns.
supporting whatever you want to support.
Yes,
Go
go
Suns.
Suns, go. Go Suns,
Sorry,
go.
thank
There we
you.
go.
Go
There we
Suns, go. Okay,
Although
bye.
you're from Boston and the Celtics are playing on,
I
you don't,
Nah,
okay, you don't know.
no.
Okay.
I didn't even know what words you said earlier. I'm just actually supporting you because you really like whatever team that
All
is. I
right.
wasn't even sure it was basketball.
Go Suns, go. Yeah, we'll go with it.
Suns, go. Okay.
I'm going to invite the weight back on. And thank you guys, everyone, for being here. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week. If you're not following, this follow us here so you can get more info. We're going to be back on. Okay, bye. Oh, the music. See, he went slow this time.
It is slow. It's not. I prefer the I Can't Dance.
I know.
Wait, I hear two music. Oh,
That
it's
was